All right, let's start breaking down some position units. We'll go to the offensive line that's been much maligned in recent years, missing three starters from 2018, including Toa Lobodon, who has moved on as a free agent. He's in Jets camp. So your thoughts about the prospects in replacing those three and moving forward?
Yeah, USC's offensive line is obviously in transition, but they performed so poorly last season in general that there is a little bit of positivity about where this group could be going, even though they are replacing the three starters. Toa Lobendon was a veteran, but he had a difficult senior season. And so there is a lot of hope that his replacement, Brett Nealon, who was the number 2 center coming out of high school when he was a recruit, it was a really intriguing prospect in the sense that he seems to have the right mentality. He is a reasonable leader, seems to understand what he needs to do as far as commanding the offensive line from the center position, and he's got a mean streak that you gotta like, and he fits into that offensive line quite well. Chris Brown is being replaced by Elijah Vera Tucker, who was a rotational guy last season, filling in for Andrew Voorhees at times at right guard. Elijah Vera Tucker, I have argued, should have been USC's starting right guard last season, and I am quite excited to see him at left guard now, getting his chance to shine, be in there, game in and game out, and do his thing. I think he has a more solid base than Andrew Voorhees was able to show last year. So I think potentially there's an upgrade there as far as if he reaches his potential. The big question is at right tackle, where USC is replacing Chuma Edoga. During spring camp, they had Jalen McKenzie filling in there, and he looked pretty solid. He had played the final 2 games of the season in 2018 because Chuma Edoga was dealing with some injuries. So he's had some game experience, but USC landed Tennessee transfer Drew Richmond this spring, and he's going to be enrolling in the fall. And he's not, I mean, he's a graduate transfer. He was a pretty highly touted player. He was a starter at Tennessee. And you got to imagine he's coming to USC to start. Like, I don't think this is a guy who comes to USC thinking he's going to be sitting on the bench. So it will be a really intriguing fall camp battle between him and McKenzie, because I think both of them will be looking at it and saying, I deserve to start, especially because Jalen McKenzie was increasingly becoming one of the leaders on the offensive line in spring camp. So that'll be the big thing to watch. One of those two guys is going to be the starter on at right tackle. And again, it's not like this offensive line has anywhere but up to go. They have a new offensive line coach in Tim Drevno. They have a new offensive system, which has very much streamlined and simplified what it is that they're being asked to do. And so the hope around USC is that keeping it simple will ultimately yield much better results than they were able to show last year.
So with all these conversations I have day to day, I forget that, Edoga, the better of the two prospects going to the New York Jets, he was actually drafted number 92, top 3 selection in the NFL draft. And then also, Drew Richmond. I've talked to some Tennessee folks down through the years about him. And most recently, since he transferred out of the program, he was actually a 5-star who was not supposed to start his first year, was pressed into duty. And there were several issues with the offense. And obviously, Tennessee has had its issues overall that could have related to his disappointing play. But he had a promising first year there at Tennessee, and then got bumped and bruised a little bit, and also consistently started, but wasn't the force that they expected him to be. But 5-star talent could really be coached up and maybe given a new lease on life there across the country.